I'm pleased, and it's my absolute pleasure to have Satish here. Interestingly, he's a mentalist, and that is one of the most unique things that I've seen in any speaker here. And what we're going to do today, before we start the session, Satish, I'll give you a minute or two to kind of jig the crowd up. But we'd love to cover, how technology can be used in such a creative manner to drive business impact. A few promises. We are not going to talk about any products. We are not going to talk about ourselves. It's more about how you can actually leverage and do some really unique things creatively for long-term impact.
Thank you, Sudarshan. Thanks for the introduction. Thanks for having us here on stage. Just to stand by the intro given by Sudarshan and the topic in terms of curiosity from a tech space perspective, I know a few of you guys have been sitting here since morning. May I request you all to please stand for a quick second? Thank you. Not more than 5 seconds, 10 seconds, right? L&D professionals out here, anyone? Anyone from learning function? Okay. Energizer or whatever, right? Icebreaker, you may want to put that name out. A very small stretch exercise, if you may. Put your right hand forward. I'm mirroring you, so it's my left hand, so don't get perturbed. Stretch your fingers, but that's not what it is. Put your left hand forward, everyone. Yeah? Palms facing outward. Lock your fist as tight as possible so that it's locked in. You don't have to do that necessarily. That's fine. Make sure your right thumb on top of your left thumb always. That's the rule of the thumb, right? Right thumb on top of left thumb. Done? You're locked in? Now do as I do. 1, 2, 3 at a count. Turn and thumbs up. Come on, guys. No? No? Okay, please take your chairs. So this is how we get the curiosity created and the attention back into the room. I know a lot of Coffee Connect happening outside. We thought we'll take a quick second to connect you all inside as well. So Darshan, on to you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a great way to start this session. Satish, within the first year of your reign at Mphasis, they won the Brandon Hall Excellence Award and the gold medal at that for excellence in talent acquisition. And a large part of that was about how you built a brand in microsocial communities. Typically, when you think about an employer brand, right? Like most of you would have heard of a couple of options. One is to get a tile on a job board, right? And the second is probably to put a wall on LinkedIn. So I'm really eager to understand why microsocial communities, what was the thought process, and how did you leverage tech to achieve that?
Got it. Yeah. Before answering that, I'd be lying if I'm going to say, look, my colleague Rao is also here, right? I don't want to claim that we moved everything to digital. We moved everything to technology platforms. We used, what we call as blockchain, NLP, AI, ML. I mean, I'll be fluffing if I were to say that we've done all of those, and hence we arrived at Brandon Hall, right? What we actually did on the ground before getting into the microservices part of it is about, we wanted to understand the problem statement much better. We double-clicked on that, right? Through 4 different lenses. One, from our own recruiter's perspective. Majid, another ex-colleague of ours sitting here as well. So we went through our own struggle. The scale was phenomenal. We were growing at about 30% year on year. The lockdown, the thick and skin of lockdown in the US, Europe, and India, we grew phenomenally out there as well, right? So that happened. So what we did, we went back and said, hey, recruiters, what is your problem statement? Because they are frontliners, right? They are the guys who, for want of better words, sell the organization to the potential candidate and get them in, make them buy in, one. The second that we kind of picked up from that perspective is a candidate, most importantly, right? How do we reach out to the candidate? And that's where the question fits in. The third lens that we kind of took on hand is about, quite often we forget about our interviewers. Anybody from IT industry would talk about the number of interviews every tech lead, program manager, delivery manager does in a day in today's context, with attrition spiking, with the growth that we're looking at, the number of interviews that one should do. So what is the typical challenge of an interviewer? Third. Fourth, for the organization, end of the day, it is all about how soon can I get a billable headcount onboarded. Let's be frank about it. I think these are 4 trajectories for
Absolutely.
anybody in HR or recruitment or attract or branding, they run behind, right? So we broke that into multiple chunks. And one of the chunk is what Sudarshan just alluded to right now. We kind of created communities, right? Today, if I'm going to go to the market and say, look, I'm hiring an IT engineer or a digital engineer, right? There are multiple flavors to this, right? Folks from IT would be able to kind of relate to this much better. You have a Java stack around folks, right? You have a cloud folks around that. You have a modernization kind of folks around that. You have a cybersecurity, you have the ZAP, you have the... So you can put in a lot of names, technology stack around it. So we picked that up. We kind of looked at it internally and said, look, if I were to run in typical IT world, we call as microservices, right, in pockets, how do we run this? Am I getting into the sea and looking out for specific fish? Or am I getting into specific ponds to get those specific fish, right? So we created what we call as a pod structure. We kind of restructured our own team. We created a pod structure where we said, look, we will have the recruiters, we will have the interviewers who are the delivery managers, we will have the onboarding team, right? So all of these guys got together and said, look, I'm going to go to this specific microservice community, all of full stack engineers, right? We went ahead and we branded in such a way that, look, if you're an FSD or FSE, full stack engineer, come and join us, right? We segmented our approach, right? We created multiple chunks and we segmented our approach and said, look, for all cloud architects or engineers that you have, this is what we're doing differently, right? For all mortgage-specific hiring, this is what we did differently, right? So we created communities of practice out there and said, look, we will divide and conquer the way that we approach talent in the market, one. Secondly, what also helped us or propelled this entire journey, we did, by the way, about 94% efficiency from FY21 to FY22, which is a significant jump, right? Almost 1.5, 2x of jump from a hiring perspective during lockdowns, during virtual hiring, right? And tools helped us to do that as well. We created communities of practice. We went behind it and said, look, our talent branding happened on the same area, right? We did not kind of say we are hiring IT professionals, but we kind of divided and conquered. That helped us a lot. What also helped us is our segmentation of organic and inorganic way of channel mix. In the sense, we created communities internally within our organization and say, there was a push that happened saying, I am hiring AWS or Azure cloud architects. And all these referrals were sent out to those community within our organization. That propelled, so it went only to them because they knew what's happening in the industry. They would be part of GitHub or Stack Overflow or any of these communities outside. They went ahead and pushed that through, right? Thanks to tools like what Sudarshan brings in to the table, right? Everything was click of a button. The JD is ready, the demand flows in, the JD is ready, click the JD out. From the tool, that's where technology played wonders. So from the tool, at one click, any employee can push that through WhatsApp. He or she can push this through Facebook, LinkedIn, and even Insta, right? That created a lot of hit for us, right? If it's in WhatsApp, anybody can see it at any point in time as well. So anybody clicks on that, let's say if I push it out to Rao and say, there is a job, would you want to apply? If Rao clicks on it, the tool took care of, like the MLM part of it, right? The link had a unified code that took care of this referral came in from Satish, right? When Rav applies, if he uploads the profile, then I get a silver patent saying, hey, you know what? The candidate you referred has already applied through your through the link that you sent. If Rav clears the first round, for example, right, tech round, you'll be given another badge. If Rav clears everything, gets an offer, and joins, you'll get another badge. So everything was leaderboard driven within every single community that we had. That propelled the channel for us significantly, right? And that's how we created micro components.
Lovely. So effectively, leveraging employee pools. And I know I saw pictures on LinkedIn of, the Ola bikes or the electric bikes that you gave out as a way to reward people, very interesting way to get people to actually push jobs in the WhatsApp groups that they were in.
In fact, a very interesting fact is that a couple of them who won those e-bikes last quarter, they've been moved into the recruitment function now, right? So, because they are top referrers in the company, we might as well get them on board because their job is something else and not sitting and doing delivery. They were okay with it, and we're just in the process of moving them in, right? So.
Lovely, lovely. In fact, the second question I want to talk about is fraud, right? And I think fraud is a massive problem. And I know typically about, fake offers or impersonation by candidates. We're dealing, typically a company of your size would be dealing with about 300 to 500 cases a year, right? And it's a bane because, it kills revenue, top line, like nothing else, and it brings a delay. You brought it down to less than 50. And I think there's a fascinating story in that journey over the last 3 years there. So would love to understand, what steps you took, process, tech, to kind of bring fraud down. And in the interest of time, if we can have one more question after this. So.
Sure. So quickly, right, I mean, that's the bane or the boon of going virtual, right?
Right.
So what we did is thanks to our technology, the platforms that we had, we kind of gotten a lot of checks in terms of our compliance. We worked on a compliance module which brought in as rudimentary as even uploading a picture, scanning a picture, doing interviews, that will be auto-click that will happen, that will get validated across stages and so on and so forth. That was one component that we did. The second one, like I spoke about, the background verification happened through a tool which is run by, which is propelled by blockchain as well. So there were a lot of elements that went in through that as well. The third component, when we onboarded, there was a check that happened between the first time the candidate applied his or her picture or image, and then the second time the video interview, proctored interview that happened. And the third one is about during virtual onboarding, check the face, right? If you look at the picture that was there in People Matters, I used to have a black beard, but then now it's white. Used to pick that up, but I'm saying not to that level, but yes, we did that as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think I account that to wisdom, but yeah. So actually interesting because sometimes, right, like a lot of times we rely on tech, but a lot of it to me also seemed like the human touch, where you're telling an interviewer, here's the picture, can you confirm? So how did that propel interviewers? Did interviewers push back and say, hey, why am I validating this? Or were there questions around it? Like, what was that ecosystem like? Because in a way, you're almost educating the entire company that, hey, this is something you have to look out for without really going through like a training session. So curious to understand what prompted that.
In fact, that's where the pod structure worked, right? So recruitment did not work in silo, right? We created in IT parlance, we created our own Scrum team. That Scrum team had a full stack recruiter, full stack engineer for interviewer. We had the onboarding team, we had the delivery team, we had the practice head, all of them together as one team. So that helped a lot. The simple mantra was get back to the delivery and say, look, if you're going to hire someone without these due diligence, they're going to come and join your team.
Right.
Right? So that kind of ticked them off. Along with our compliance guidelines that we have, we had multiple, I would say, compliance checks that went through all through the process. Like I said, every stage has a compliance check that kind of minimized the Sudarshan.
Got it. Lovely, lovely. The next thing that I want to cover is not a lot of people put out candidate experience. Everybody talks about it. I think very few companies measure it. You've not only just measured it, you've put it as a line item on a target, almost a target on your back, by putting it to the board and the executive committee, right? Your entire ExCo leadership, you measure TA. So would love for you to talk about two things. Your journey of going from, say, 4.3 on 5, which is pretty awesome, to like 4.9 on 5, which I think is like spectacular. So what are some things that you did to get through to that kind of candidate experience? And what prompted you to say, hey, I'm going to get this as a TA leader by putting this number out there? Because it's not easy to control candidate experience. It's insanely hard. There are so many moving parts in recruitment. But what prompted you to put that as a target as well? So
now the secret sauce is that target determined my variable pay. So that's on a lighter side. No, but in actual, right, today a recruiter's challenge is from a select to an offer to a joiner, right? Unless you create that candidate experience, you're not going to get your joiners coming in, no matter what brand that you are in, right? People just go behind an additional 5%, 10% on compensation or location, work from home, like our fellow speaker spoke about. So candidate experience was a pivotal point for us to kind of change the game to see, can I convert every 100 offers that I do, can I convert 60 of them even joining in the first place? That's a big number in it itself, right? By the way, just a small correction, we're at 4.89. We've not hit 4.9 yet, but we will get there soon, right? Yeah. So what we did was every recruiter, every interviewer, or every HR onboarding specialist, all of them were kind of told, look, guys, these are our pillars. If they are onboarded, they're going to be our brand ambassadors. So let's treat them as our ambassadors and advocates and not treat them as another talent coming in and going out, right? It's just the mind shift that happened. And with the pod structure that we did to a large extent, also propelled this saying, look, he or she's going to come and join my team, so I might as well invest more. We did connects after rolling out. In fact, what we also did, we created an enhanced POFU team, which is a post-offer follow-up team. There's a lot of jargon, sorry. Post-offer follow-up team, right? So there are a set of 10, 15 people calling all these candidates and saying, look, Emphasis is now certified on Azure Travel Hospitality, right? So this is going to become a great place to work for you, right? This is the career that we can nurture. This is what you can learn, adapt, and move on, and so on and so forth. So all of these added, so it is not just rolling out an offer, it's much beyond, in other words, we say value-added services. We started doing that and promising career for talent that's coming in. That helped us propel the candidate experience.
Yeah. Right, no, fabulous, because it's in any recruitment function, right? Like and at the scale that you're doing, and I know that you kind of almost doubled your number of hires, almost 94% growth within 1 year. Yeah. It's not easy. And one of the 4 components that you talked about was interviewers as well. Mm-hmm. At the kind of scale that you're doing, with the joining ratios plummeting in the industry, and I know you're better off than them, that's still a lot of volumes for interviews. So your scale of interviews just ballooned, right? At the same time, at that scale, you're maintaining personalization, delivering this number, and you're actually moving it north. What are some things that you did for interviewers, right? Because that segment is a big factor in the candidate having like that personal connect. Correct. And what are some things that you did so the interviewer was vested, and you also were able to move your TAT faster?
Now again, on a lighter side, the weekend interview allowance was hiked. That what people showed up and they started doing much more. And even the weekday interviewing allowance were kind of hiked in. I mean, that's one aspect to it. But on a serious note, the way we kind of used tooling again, right? That helped them. Say, for example, show of hands quickly, how often you get a feedback from an interviewer? 1 hour, 2 hours in a day? 1 day, it takes 1 day to get feedback, yeah? So we kind of brought that down from almost about 8 to 12 hours to less than an hour, right? Everything is iOS and Android driven, right? We used voice to text conversion. So you click on one of the competency, is he good in algorithms? Yes, he's good, convert to text, right? Or say, he spoke about data structures, he's very good in this, he's very good in that, click on the button, audio to text conversion. Final feedback, he's a select because he fits in. Though he's not a full stack engineer, he's still a quarter or half stack engineer for me, I'm okay to select him. Hit the button. You don't have to sit and type, you don't have to use your laptop, desktop for interviewers to do that. We made their life much, much simpler, right? That's on one side. Second, we also kind of segmented interviewers from a process perspective and said, look, these are a set of engineers who will hire these specific positions. So that made their lives much simpler. So technology and process engineering, that helped us get there, SUDARSAN.
And I know the biggest problem in that space, right, is a lot of times people come in for interviews showing that I know more than you versus evaluating a person with respect to a job. And the other part of it is obviously the feedback as well. So I'm glad that you were able to crack, both sides of it. I want to leave a minute or so for any questions from the audience in terms of talent acquisition, challenges, creativity, business impact.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for all your insights. I'm Suvarna. I head HR for Sodexo Benefit Rewards in India. My question is, with all this investment in skilling the whole TA team and also creating all this tech architecture for the TA team, all the investment, are you also tracking the return? And if so, how did you justify all this investment? Of course, the business took care of it itself, and the more the team, the better the business. But still, just from the investment in all this, how did you measure the return?
Well, just getting this investment itself needed a proposal, right? It's like you're writing a purpose note for an MBA types, right? But yeah, in a much larger context, you'll have to go to the CFO's office and tell him, look, this is X input, but I will derive Y output for you, right? Without that, I think no organization is willing to invest on any tools and technology. Like I said, our goal of getting into blockchain, NLP, AI, cobot, all of these bigger jargons are 2030 goals, right? How often we've seen companies investing heavily on such tools and utilizing only 10, 15, 20% of the tool's capability. We didn't want to do that. And that's why I said, the way that we proposed is, we said, look, these are 4 lenses that we viewed. We went to the CFO's office, we went to the CXO's office and said, these are 4 lenses we viewed. We will uptick recruiter productivity. We will lower your cost per hire. We will enhance your interviewers' time much better, utilize them much better. And we will ensure our time to bill is reduced so that you can bill at a much faster rate than what it is right now. So these are 4 key drivers that touch the nerve of a CFO's office by saying, look, if we invest here, these 4 are touched, and hence you will get more uptick on your revenue intake. Check sign and we're all done. That's a secret sauce. But on the other side, we've put all our recruiters into a rigorous training program as well through one of the industry certifications. They did action learning. All of these were given as action learning for them as well, saying how would you, if you were to run your recruitment function, talent attract function, how would you do it, right? Also, we invested heavily on branding. If you look at LinkedIn, any of the posts that we do as an organization, talent branding is done by our own team, right? So innovative, creative branding that kind of reaches out much faster as well. So these are 2 sides of the coin which helped us going as well. Yeah.
And I can just add something very quickly. So talent, I think HR is one of the biggest revenue generating functions. It's never considered that way. Every person you bring into the organization is actually either impacting the top line or impacting the bottom line at a very simple level. And I think business cases at a very simple function, at the rate at which growth happens, is a function of the people you bring in, the people you nurture, and the growth you deliver. So a lot of the business cases get built as a function of faster time to hire, like in the case of talent acquisition, cost per hire, right? And just retention. Like if you hire the right people and they stay for longer, you save a ton of money there. So a lot of this is about wrapping the right case. And when you do that and you show the results you do, it becomes a no-brainer to get subsequent investments as well.
But thank you very much. Can we have a round of applause for our speakers, please?
Thank you.